All right, the president will soon be en route to the United States Capitol here. They'll be talking tax cuts with Republican senators, including Bob Corker. They've been having another nasty little exchange back and forth, tweeting and that sort of thing. On the right, you might notice we're keeping a focus on the U.S. debt clock, as my next guest, Maya MacGuineas, the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget president. What's nasty about Maya is she just horrifically criticizes both parties for dropping the ball on this. So she's an equal opportunity basher when it comes to those not exhibiting fiscal prudence. Maya, very good to have you.
Nice to have you, and I feel like there may be a lot of bashing today in our discussion.
All right, so let's add. There might be also an opening the president is going to try to find with congressmen on getting them all to agree, that is, senators all to agree on tax cuts, period. The drama and the personalities notwithstanding, the votes look like they could be there. It's no guarantee, but it looks like they could be there. But you're worried about some simple math issues, right? They've allocated $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years for tax cuts. But the tax cuts on the table right now, I believe, are closer to $5 trillion. And that's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, there's two simple math issues that we're dealing with. The first one is the budget that's about to get passed out of the House this year that will let this $1.5 trillion tax cut move forward. And that budget, and keep in mind, this is not what you would expect of a Republican budget. That budget never balances, increases spending, and increases the debt. Okay? That's what the Republican budget is going to be. No spending cuts, no entitlement reform, no balancing the budget, no getting our debt under control. So that is a massive shift from the Republican Party in terms of fiscal responsibility.
By the way, you're not in the camp that says these cuts, even when someone as conservative as Rob Portman of Ohio say this is going to add 0.4% to GDP growth and go a long way toward paying for these cuts. You don't buy that math.
I buy some of that. These cuts will grow the economy. What's happening, and Rob Portman isn't one of them, but a lot of people are really exaggerating the amount of growth that could come out of it. So what we want to do is actually first see what the tax cut looks like before we say how much growth it will generate. Be somewhat conservative, but use reliable models, not politicized models, to figure out what that growth is. And go ahead and build that into our understanding, but not exaggerate it, not, click our heels 3 times and wish for mammoth amounts of growth to fill in the gap. And that goes to your second point, which is if we're going to cut taxes by about $5.5 trillion, and they're going to have $1.5 trillion of borrowing as part of that, again, a huge problem, I think, but that's what they're giving themselves. They still haven't been willing to find the offsets to get you to just $1.5 trillion, because every base runner that people bring up, the lobbyists, the people who benefit from it, the massive outcry of, oh, we can't reform this tax break or this tax break, means all of the pay-fors are getting watered down. And you even have the president tweeting, saying, oh, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. He's not somebody who embraces hard choices when it comes to fiscal policy. So the base broadening that is key to making this tax reform really work, and is where the hard choices come in, is not a big part of the tax deal that we've seen so far, and it's critical for offsetting at least some of the costs.
All right,
and again, growth is great. Growth will happen, but let's not exaggerate it. Growth will be able to generate a couple $100 billion in additional revenues, we hope, and that would be terrific. Yeah. We need it to do everything we can to grow the economy. We don't need to pretend.
We don't know. But, Maya, the president, of course, arriving on Capitol Hill right now. I don't know how that meeting will go.
Yeah.
But he has already pre-removed some debating points. That's probably clumsy wording on my part. But what started this is Senator Corker saying the president should have left a lot of the details of this to the committees that are going back and forth on how to pay for this sort of thing, like the state local tax deduction or the generous tax allowances for 401k investments and the like. And by the president, certainly on the 401k saying that leave it alone and all, he's limiting their options. But maybe he's subscribing to the belief, look, I don't have to pay for this tax cut. Bottom line is the growth will be there. If you want to limit a tax cut by whether you could pay for it or not, you might as well not have it because it's not going to do much good. What do you say?
Yeah, I say the president doesn't make hard choices. When he ran for this office, he talked about cutting taxes, increasing spending, and not reforming our entitlement programs, Social Security and Medicare, which we have to do. Those numbers don't add up, and that's kind of translating into where we are now, where, again, we can reform the tax code in a way that will grow the economy, but there are plenty of models out there. When Dave Camp had the former chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee had a tax reform bill, there were 7 different models that showed how much dynamically scored you could get gains from that. We should look at those kinds of models, take responsible kind of estimates, but not make them up. And what really worries me is some of the numbers coming out of the White House and other places right now that this can more than pay for itself, just as higher than anyone thinks is really credible. And we should be conservative with a record level of debt like we have.
Well,